as I would have been had we not been first day back in for us and blended for high school. So lovely to have those of you that are here with us. Just to let you know that we're recording the session again today. So if anybody's got any worries about that, please let us know, just so that we can then share it in the Google Classroom so that anybody can view it later on. I'm very aware that there are lots and lots of competing things for our time this week. So I'm going to go fairly quickly, aim to get finished quite sharp. And if there's any questions or anything else that people want to stay in to check in with, then I'm more than happy to do that. But I aim to not be still keeping everybody right up till 5 o'clock, and I certainly won't be keeping people after 5. Most of you probably already know me. I'm a class teacher. I was in primary school, and I've got primary 6, so this is our first day back in. And the first day with the school full back in. So classroom is a bomb site at the moment behind me. Very quick, our agenda for today, we're going to have a look at docs, slides, classrooms and sites, and then we'll leave that time at the end. I'm going to presume that everybody in the call already has reasonable knowledge of using the tools that we're going to look at just now, using the Workspace tools. So we're not really going to start at the bottom. We'll go quite quickly through things, and I'll be demoing things quite quickly. This is, again, not foolproof. It's not absolutely everything, but it's some of the things that you might not have come across or used so often, or perhaps maybe even just in a slightly different context. So we're going to begin today. I'm just going to change over what I'm presenting and move to my Chromebook. So this is also comes with the caveat of I am using a school Chromebook and a school network now again. So just bear with me until it cooperates. Are we doing? Okay, so I'm going to start with Google Slides. I really, really like Slides as a tool. I find that more and more I am doing more of my lessons and things like that through Google Slides rather than anything else. So we'll just have a look at some of the bits and pieces that you might find useful about that. So I'm not sure if everybody knows that you can do the shortcut slides.new. And that will open you up a new slide deck without you having to navigate through the menu. So quite a useful tip. Also works with docs.new, so you can get in quicker without having to navigate to your waffle menu or the app picker, whatever we want to call it. I tend to call it a waffle menu. I've heard it called chocolate and all sorts of things. So much more than just doing presentations. One of the things that I particularly like is this is when we're waiting for the network. For forever. You may have found when you've been doing slides and perhaps giving it out as work to kids, they tend to move everything on your slide. So you can find absolutely everything that you've created jumps around and moves around. So one of the ways that we can create sort of drag and drop or templates for children to fill out, this is when the Chromebook is not going to cooperate, is to create a drag and drop where we've set some of the information as the backdrop. I might have to change device if this is going to be so slow. Let's see if it sorts itself out. Otherwise, I'll just swap onto my other device. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a very, very simple template. I'm a primary school teacher, so I'm going to do this based on a set of spelling rules. So what I'm going to want the children to do is to set up different sections in there. I'm going to swap, sorry folks, bear with me a wee second. I'm going to swap devices because this is just not going to work. School network. My apologies, sorry, that's me swapping devices. Right, hopefully my laptop, my Windows laptop will work a little bit slicker for us. So I'm going to create a brand new slide. I'm going to take over presenting from that Chromebook. And I'm going to do everything that I did again. Okay, so we're going to slide. Try again. Less speed, less haste, more speed, I think is perhaps the phrase. Okay, now I have a new presentation. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clear all of this out just now. And I'm going to create a really, really simple backdrop, just using a couple of lines. And what I want to do is I'm going to ask children to do a sort. So in my boxes, let's just pick a few sounds. So we might have the EE sound. EA, and then perhaps just a couple of other nice. So I'm using the Control D to duplicate there. And another two phonics that we might be working on. Let's work on the U sound. And the duplicate button there again. And this time we're going to work on the Now, if I was to ask children to type words in here, what they're likely to do is to move all of this around and upset my clearly not particularly tidy slide deck. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to File up here and I am going to download, and I'm going to download just this current slide as a JPEG, so as an image. And what this will do is it pops it down here. And then what I can do is I'm going to use Control M, another useful shortcut there, to get a brand new slide. Get rid of this just now. And I've got this, my image down here. So this is an image file of this first slide. I'm going to go to background and I'm going to go to choose image. What this then lets me do is to drag and drop the image that I'd created from the first slide into there. And now this is a background image that I can't edit. So the children could then add details into here that's not going to change or disrupt your background. So really useful. You could do that for all sorts of things. You could build a set of templates and do it as backgrounds and upload those images. One of the helpful things is if we go back into here, you can set it to the theme. You can reset it to the theme, or when you choose, you can add it to the theme here. That's the one I was meaning. So you could add it to the theme, and then all of your slides would have the same background. You can override that slide by slide by going into that slide's background. But if you wanted to create a bank of reading responses or templates, or thinking even something like, I know Martin's in the call, if it was maps that you wanted them to be able to annotate, but you don't want anybody doctoring the map or dragging it about or deleting it or anything like that, then you could put that in using background and dropping that in there. Other things that quite often colleagues have challenges with is obviously the format of this is not in A4. So if you are printing it or using it, you'll find that in the page setup, and you can go to custom and then you can change it. So in centimeters, it is 21 by 30, I think, thereabouts. And that will then, obviously it's distorted it because I've already had a background in, but that's quite a handy one just so that it formats for printing and sets that out quite well. I'm just going to undo that because it works a bit better. If I don't want that background, so I'm going to just go to, I want a white background, and I can overwrite the background that I already had there. You may know that you can add in, you can insert YouTube clips into video clips into your slides. Let's just find a BBC. Hopefully we don't find anything untoward. This clip, you might, hopefully you know that you can do that, but you can also use the start and stop options. So if you're directing young people to a YouTube video and you don't want them to actually get lost in the entirety of YouTube, or if you perhaps only want them to watch a section of a video, I had this during lockdown and kids were sitting for 3 hours watching a video, I only wanted them to watch 20 minutes of, 10 minutes of. You can use this, so you could create this entire slide, the video is just a slide, and use your start and stop buttons in here. If you play this through, you can then use the current time for the start and stop. So you can narrow down what they're watching to specific parts of the video, so you don't have to set them loose with just the URL. You could make that just that individual slide, and you could share that single slide. The other thing you could do with that slide is, now that I've got my YouTube video and I'm imagining that that's all set up, we can grab the URL from the top and we can change that edit bit to present. So if I grab all of this, and I'm just using Control-C to copy it and Control-V to paste, but I want to change that edit to present. If that was the link I gave to the young people, that's all they would be able to see, is that one particular video or that one particular section of the video. So you could link that into other things. It just saves you losing all that time to people guddling through YouTube. I'll just come back to my presentation here. So with this one, just to remind us that in any of the docs and slides, you can grab the link at the top and change all of this section after the slash here where it says edit. You can change it to present, as I did a little moment ago. So I'll just do that again because I don't think I actually shared. So that is it on the present option. In fact, I'm just going to change. So all I did was change everything after the URL, after the slash to. I'm going to stop briefly and change how I'm presenting so you can actually see everything that I'm doing. So everything after that edit, you can change it to either present, or if you grab it, you can also change it to copy, and it would force a copy. That works for docs and slides and jams. So if you're giving out, if you're not using Classroom and you're giving out things to people that you want them to make their own copy, that you don't want them to be able to edit your original, or you want them to be able to create their own version of something, that make a copy is particularly useful in there. So the other thing I wanted to look at in slides just now, just going to tidy up a little bit, is having a look at how we can use this working collaboratively in our classes. So again, this would work if we're thinking a little bit about that blended or that hybrid model of some people inside, some people outside school, distance learning, or if you are just working collaboratively within your classroom. So I know my pupils have missed a lot of working together, so wanting to really be building that up. What we can do is I'm going to choose this slide. So all I've done here is created a slide deck with a whole lot of animal templates on them. And you may or may not have come across this Explore tool down the bottom in here. So the Explore tool exists in docs and it exists in slides. So in slides, it will do quite a collection of things for us. So first of all, it will help us with our research. So if I type in, can't spell today at all, Scottish Wildcat, it's going to give me options of text, and it's also going to give me images in here. So if I just drag and drop, it will bring these images over into my page for me. And then I'm going to add some text by, I'm going to be really naughty, and I'm going to copy that section from Wikipedia. And so I'm able to collect a whole lot of images, a whole lot of information that way. It saves, again, going off lost on the internet, doing it all from the Explore tool. Now that I've got a few pieces of information on my slide, clicking on the Explore tool now allows me to choose a layout. So if we're looking at presentation, if we're looking at, certainly my pupils like to spend forever and a day on layout and fonts and not so much time on the actual content. Explore will do that for you. So it will give you some options of how you might want to lay out your slides once you've got a little bit of content. So you can just click and it will automatically format your slide for that to work there. Using slides as a collaborative document works really well, because I could give this single link to a whole group of pupils and they could all edit their own individual slide. It would allow them all to be able to see each other's, and it would also allow them to work together. So they'll be able to see that. If you've got pupils all working on the same set of slides like this option down here allows you to see them all at once. So if you're looking for something where you can monitor what everybody is doing at once, then having it in grid view like that is particularly helpful. And you can see all of this will update live. When you're looking at lots of pupils working on within one slide deck, they can obviously all edit each other's. One of the things that you might have is somebody accidentally, or hopefully not, but deliberately deleting or making a mistake and doing something that we don't really want them to do. We can go into the file and we can go into version history. And by seeing version history, I will see everything that has happened in this document. So you can see that at 4:18, these are the things that I did. And as you click through it, you will see the things that I have been in and what I've done. So I scroll down, and then these are the sections that are highlighted that I have added into this slide. If you realise that actually you need to come back a step and undo something, you can restore the previous version, and that will just remove whatever it was. So it's gone back to what I did at 18. It'll remove whatever had happened after that. So you can always reset it back to that point. It's also particularly useful using that version history, because if we've got lots of pupils working on it at once, you can actually see which account has done what, so that we don't have to, is this my next one? This is my next one. So that you don't have any of that argument of I did all the work, somebody else didn't do any work, or any of that sort of thing. The other thing that you can do with this is you have the option there to make a copy. So if you have a pupil that has been editing lots and had lots of support to edit or to up-level, and you need evidence of the step before, of the sort of first draft or the unsupported draft, then you can make a copy of a previous version, and that will you'll be able to keep those as evidence if that's something that you need. If you think that there's been a lot of input in the sort of revision stage, you can make a copy, and it will allow you to rename that. So perhaps prior to assignment, prior to redrafting. One of the things that we don't have in slides is, you notice that I was able to copy and paste that from the Explore tool, and I don't have the citation tool, which will come on to when we look at docs. There is a citation tool in docs that allows us to actually quote things properly. In terms of accessibility in slides, let's hope that my network holds. One of the sort of accessibility tools that you might have is if you have a pupil who is able to search for, I don't have an internet connection now. If you have a pupil who is able to search for images perhaps, but needs support with the text, you could use the Explore tool for them to search for the images. Let's try that again. You could use the Explore tool to search for images. And then in the speaker notes, so if I just bring this up a bit. Now, because I've had to swap devices, I can't actually demo this, but you have tools and you have voice type speaker notes. So if the pupil clicks on that, you will get the little window at the side. You can change it to UK English. It's because I'm working on my trainer account. And then they can voice type into this. This probably won't pick it up because my microphone on this computer doesn't work very well. When they're finished with the information that, oh, I stand corrected. When they have completed their voice notes, just click the button, and then you will be able to have them with content and with text as well. If I come out of that Explore tool and go back in, it will, if I'm not clicked on anything, allow me to reformat that and sort out my layouts, because I've got them all in random places. That's why. So nice bit of accessibility in there. One of the other things that we can do, and I'll come onto this in Docs as well, is you can use the background by setting a colour in background. If you've got pupils that require coloured overlays or something like that for text. So if you could just change the background and choose whatever the appropriate colour is for that pupil, and then you would know that they're working in something that's got the appropriate coloured overlay for that pupil. So that's some bits and pieces in slides. Like I said, I am clicking through really, really quickly because I don't want to keep anybody any longer than we have to. And I know that you all will use a lot of these tools in your day-to-day teaching. Just some bits and pieces that perhaps you might not use so often. So I'm going to go into open a doc now. I'm going to leave slides behind. I'm going to go to doc and have a look at some things in docs. So again, I'm going to go to docs.new and just get a brand new doc. There we are. So you can see that I've set the colour background of this to that pale blue colour. In order to set it up, if it was somebody with a different colour of overlay, so file, and down to page setup, and then you can see that coloured, the option there to change the page colour. If you set it as default, any device that pupil logs in with their Edubuzz account, that's the default colour their doc will become. It only works in docs, doesn't work in slides, obviously, because it's expecting you to sort of make that more of a visual thing. So this now would be my default colour, which it is on my own personal account. So every document that they create on any device, so again, it doesn't matter what they log in on, as long as they're logged in with their Edubuzz account, they'll automatically have their coloured overlay. If you as a teacher create, so if I create resources, it creates them on and share them, it creates them with the yellow background. So I need to just remember to pop that off if I'm sharing it out to pupils, or they can just have yellow because it doesn't do them any harm at all. Just to double check the share settings, I'm sure everybody already knows this, but this did update itself not that long ago. You can direct add people in through that option, and you can get the link in there. Just be wary when you're sharing out links, whether it's within our establishment or out with our establishment. So you can choose how far you want to share it out with there. So anyone with the link, and what do you want them to be able to do, view, comment, or edit. So just double check what setting you've got on there, depending on what it is you're sharing. Restricted limits it only to the people that have been direct added, so not the people with they can't just search for it. So you've got that in there, and you can search for people here. You can also choose whether or not you want the editors to change permissions. So if you're sharing a document and you've got perhaps a collaborative sharing document, but you don't want your pupils to then be able to share it on or to lock anybody out, you can go into, so that was just in the cog there, and you can take that off. So although they can edit the doc, they can't change who has access to it. Might be helpful if you've got pupils that like to perhaps mess about with who's allowed in. Come back out of that there just now. You also have the Explore tool in Docs, and it's a little bit different. So in my Explore tool, I am able to, let's just search for Estonian. Oops. And I have the option to drag over images, so I can drag and drop my images over. But when I come to looking for actual content, if I was looking at this content now, I wouldn't copy and paste directly. I would put this into my own words. But if we're teaching citations and we're teaching recognizing our sources, when you hover over one of the results and you click on the quotation marks, it will give you the quotation as a footnote at the bottom and it's fully referenced. So you obviously have the URL plus the access date. So you can teach that in there. The images, it doesn't do that, but what it does do is when you click on it, it shows you the link underneath for where the image is, because actually what that embedded image is a link out to the image on the web. If you use the Explore tool, all of the images that you have access to are free to use for these purposes. So you might well find that someone has been Googling, just using a Google image search, and saying that when I use the Explore tool, I can't get the images I want. That's because in the Google image search, they've not put it into the tools, use the tools to show that it's free for use and modification. Whereas if you use the Explore tool, it always will be. Other things that might be particularly useful is if I'm doing collaboration, I just insert lots and lots of a table with lots and lots of space in it, and then pupils have their own column to be able to work in. So you've also got, I'm sure as everybody has realised, all the usual word processing type options. But I think the benefit of using Docs is really that collaboration, or that linking out to the web and being able to cite things properly. I think that's particularly useful. What I will also want to have a wee look at, before I do anything else, I could, just going to move my mouse, there we are. If you've got a young person who uses voice typing, you can click on the voice typing again and you will get the same option. It will insist on defaulting to US English, not that I suppose it matters. And I would now be able to type and tell everything that I know about East Lothian. We'll stop that there. So you can use voice typing in there. One of the things that's particularly useful about that is you've not got anybody doing anything different. You've not got anybody having to use different apps or software. You can just use the tools button in there, and it's actually getting really quite good at picking. If you're using it on something that's got a better connection than my laptop, and the Chromebook, it works really well when the Chromebook's online, and that will it picks up Scottish accents. So it picks up my kids and it picks up Scottish accents quite well. So you've got the option in there. We're going to have a look at this translate document. So I have in my drive, I have a letter that I would send out to my parents. So this is the home. This is actually my colleagues that I've stole from her. This is the letter that went out. So I know that I have parents who are Polish speakers at home. I can go to File and I can go, no I can't, I can go to Tools and I can go to Translate Document, and then it gives me the option of choosing a language in there. So if I'm looking for Polish and then I translate that document, it will make me a copy of the document and it will translate the document for me. So it does that automatically, tells you what it is, tells you that it's been translated, and it pops the whole thing into Polish there for me. If you have a pupil who is English as additional language, then they could voice type in their additional language and then translate the document into English. And I believe it's more accurate than using straightforward Google Translate. My language skills are not good, so perhaps someone who does have is bilingual could check things, but as far as I'm aware, it's a lot better translation than copying and pasting from Google Translate. It's a lot better. So if I wanted to do this and voice type into here, I could then translate my documents. Now that I've got that, I could translate this demo, and I could translate it into, let's just pick something, and it would take my doc and do that. So you could have a pupil voice typing in one language and then translating it into English, or if it was in the modern languages department in high school, I'm working back and forward two languages. So do feel that one is really quite a helpful option to have in there. If you're marking, I'm just going to come back to the English one because that will confuse me. If you're marking and things like that, we can obviously put comments on, which is the comment option now. They've added this little sidey button in, which I think is quite useful rather than having to go and find it in the menus. So you can add a comment on in there. You can use the sign in order to tag a specific individual, so I can tag my other account. What you're also able to do is assign and edit directly to that person, and they will get a notification telling them that that is their task. So if you're working in a collaborative doc, or you've got group work or something like that going on, you can use that option in there to assign, you know, Kirsty, you must go and fix this bit, this was your bit. And it will assign to that one person. It allows you to share the comment with that one person, and they can edit, you can turn the share linking on. Oh, I don't have all this because I don't already have access to the document. And that will notify them that they have that there. You also have the options to go to suggesting edits. I encourage for peer feedback them to use suggesting, because I don't want them to be editing an individual document. And what happens when we're on suggesting is if I delete that and say without capital letters, they would get the suggestion there, and then they have the owner of the doc has the option to accept or to decline the edit. I think that's particularly useful so that the ownership of that document remains with the person that's created it, and any changes or edits are visible there as well. You have the same option in, I'm just going to get rid of all of that. You have the same option in your version history. So you have in here where you can see the version history, and so you can work back and see everything that has been done. If you don't see the details, it's that little arrow there that will expand it and show all the different stages of what I edited and when. Again, useful if you think, or if you're suspicious of copying and pasting, you'll be able to see the whole copying and paste go in at once. For those of you that were in our advanced classroom session, you would be able to set this up also to use the check originality reports, and so you could run it through that if you needed this as perhaps an assessment piece, and you to see exactly who's done what or what has been added when. So you can do that there. And come back out of that. So that was the main things I wanted to show in docs. Obviously, you've got all the usual things that I'm sure everybody is perfectly aware of. You can use docs to build up by just using your link option to build up interactive documents that you could share with parents. And again, you could do that by removing that edit option at the top and just changing that to view. And all they'll be able to do is actually look at it. They won't be able to do anything else. It's another way of just giving a really quick link out so that you don't have to worry too much about link sharing and that sort of thing, and certainly not whether or not people have got accounts. So hopefully some of those tools for those things have been useful. A couple of the other bits I wanted to look at that we might not use so often. I'm just going to tidy up these tabs because I've got thousands of them open. I want to keep that. Don't want to keep that. So I'm going to come into my calendar now and have a little look at how we can use calendar. I'm sure lots of people are using this really effectively, but some bits and pieces that might be useful for classwork. So within my calendar, I can obviously create assignments and various events. What I can also do is I can create appointment slots. So you can do this, create appointment slots. And this is the period of time that I want to create these appointment slots for. Let's just change that to tomorrow, and I want my appointment slots to go all afternoon tomorrow. So if you need to have check-ins perhaps with pupils, or if you need contact with parents, I don't think I need to see anybody for 30 minutes at a time. Let's go for 10. So what I've set up now is I've set the start time and the end time of when my appointment slots are going to be, and I've said how long I want my appointment slots to be. It's my calendar, so I've chosen that I'm doing it from my main calendar. If you have Google Classrooms, and you've got lots of different Google Classrooms, that's what these calendars are here. So these are all calendars that are pulled from Google Classrooms. So if you have a Google Classroom with, for example, your first year science class, you could choose that Google Classroom from here, and this will only this will put it into that calendar, and then you could share it in Classroom with just those people, and it would only be in that calendar. So I've got appointment slots and I've got them for tomorrow. I'm going to save that there. This is what it looks like in the owner's calendar. When I click on that now, I can go to the calendar appointment page. What that looks like is you can see that there are these slots for each of the times. So each 10-minute block has a slot that can be clicked on. Google makes sure that multiple people can't select the same slot. So if somebody selects this slot, it's wanting to know that it's me because I'm logged in as the same account. So this who would say the person who's booking the slot. It's just because I'm logging in, I'm in with the same account. And then you could add in some extra information in there. So perhaps this says Joe blogs and they need to speak to their teacher about their course choices. And then that would be saved and I've booked that appointment. So you can see in Classroom, in Calendar now, sorry, that one is now blocked out, so that's no longer bookable. And people could book those slots as you go through. Really useful perhaps for parents' nights when we're going to have to do distance learning or curriculum meetups or check-ins or any of that sort of thing can be done through there. Excuse me. If you yourself want to do it so that the middle slot, for example, isn't bookable, you can just book them yourself, which is what I'm doing just now, every sort of other one. And you can book them out yourself if you want to leave yourself gaps. I know when I'm doing parents' night, I don't like to have everybody straight back to back every sort of half hour or so. I try for a wee space so I can catch up. So that can be really useful in there. Back to our calendar main page. One of the things that we can do as well is we can set a recurring, we can set a recurring event. So I'm just going to keep calling these demos because I can't think at the moment. And in here, we can select repeat. So if we wanted that to repeat weekly on a Monday, we could do that. And you can see that we have the option to add a Google Meet into that. If I'm using the repeat option, that Google Meet will remain the same for all of those sessions. So if this was study sessions for biology, I don't know why I'm all in the sciences today, study sessions for biology, that Meet link would be the same and it would be recurring over and over again. If, however, something happens I'll go into this one first. In here, you can turn on or off quick access. So the quick access doesn't allow people to join before you do, and only the people invited by the host can join without asking. So that's when you get that waiting room. So when you came into this meet today, we had quick access on, so we didn't have to admit you. But you can turn that on or off, so you've got a bit more control in who can get in or out of your meets. If I go into the details, so that was the cog was quick access, and then this drop down here, it shows you the meeting ID. So if you need to change the meeting link, the meet link, because somebody's been in it that shouldn't be, or because you actually want to link it to other things, you can edit that there and you can paste in the meet link for a meet that already exists. So if you've got your Google Classroom link, which is the meet you want to use, you want to consistently use, you could pop your Classroom meet link into there and then schedule your appointments, schedule your events, and that would give you the same link as your Classroom link. So you can tie it all together and still have those notifications in someone's classroom of this is when you need to be logging in. I think that might be particularly useful even when especially when we're going towards with us being in and still having to have, meets aren't perhaps as regular, certainly not for me now that we're all in school. So that was just in that drop down there, and you can edit your meet link. It has to be a pre-existing one, so you have to either have already created it elsewhere or use your Classroom link and copy and paste it. So your Classroom from your Classroom banner. Okay. So that is some of the bits and pieces I wanted to have a little look at in Calendar. The last thing I want to have a little look at is slides. And we did talk about this briefly if you were with us when we looked at the hybrid learning, but just wanted to have another little look at some of the settings and things we can set up in Sites. Sorry, I wish everything didn't begin with an S. So in Sites, some of us may well be creating profiles or creating templates that we want young people to work with. So this could also work equally well at high school level. If it was a folio rather, or if it was a sort of visual CV, something like that. This is just my primary 7 one. It's the same poor lad that I use all the time. If you create a draft template, so this is obviously his is already filled in, but if I created a draft template, I can go to this. That's not where I want to go at all. I can go into the dots in here and I can duplicate this site. And what this will do is I can choose where I want it to go. So I don't really want it to go into that folder. Just put it in my drive. And I can duplicate that site. It will duplicate absolutely everything that's in that site. So this is my copy of the site. So all I did there was duplicate it, and now I've got a copy of it. It sometimes takes a few minutes to actually duplicate the site. Quite a few things that it's doing in the background. You will get an email notification to tell you that the site has been duplicated. If you are creating sites, just be really careful. I don't know why I'm in the Highland one, that's not really what we want. What your naming convention for sites is going to be, especially if you've got young people sharing information about themselves. Be very cautious that you're not sharing something that would allow that young person to be identified, especially given the amount of information, if it's in some sort of profile or CV, that might be about that might contain about that child or that young person. The share options are a little bit different in sites. So at the moment I'm working within a draft site, so I've not yet published it. So if I go into the share options, they appear slightly different. If I come down to this links option down here, you will be able to see that I've got a draft version of the site and I've got a published version of the site. So you could make your draft section of the site, the draft version of the site even, available to be edited by people within Chrome School, and you could keep the published site only so that Chrome School can get access, or I could put that out publicly and their viewers, so you can change the level of access for the two different stages of your site. If you put it on the link settings, you can let the people within your establishment, so anywhere you see Chrome School, that would say Edubuzz for us. You could set that so that people within Edubuzz could search for it, which might be handy if you're doing this as a transition document or a sharing document across different schools. When we come up to publish, if we have published a site more than once, you will see this is the draft site that only those people have access to, and on this side is the currently published section. So you can always have a look and compare these side by side, so you can see what can the world see and what have I edited. So if I edited this before I publish it, so I'm going to come back to there and just remove this whole section of text and then come back to publish. My draft will have removed that section of text, whereas in the published version, I can see that that's still there. So it gives that bit of sort of checks to see what's actually been published fully publicly on the web. It also gives you a chance, if you're working as a sort of overseeing these, to double check between the two things before it goes live. They can share the draft with you and allow you as a teacher to access their draft by direct adding as well in there. And that way you can see everything before you agree to publish it together, so that you know that there's not going to be any issues or any concerns over what's being shared. You can check all of these, you can unpublish. So if you discover that a young person has published a site and actually there's information on there that shouldn't be fully public, you can unpublish the site and it will pull it back to just being in the draft version. You can edit that and then republish it again when you know that it's absolutely fine and you're good to go with that. Another option that can be quite handy is just when you're talking about pupils sort of building up something appropriate visually, is the preview button there. will let you see what it actually looks like on the device, and you get the options along the bottom here to show what it will look like. So obviously on a computer screen, on a tablet, and how it will render if it's on a phone. So it's obviously in a scrolly thing if it's on a phone. When you're adding in docs, we did look at these before. So you're able to add from Drive, and you could build up a whole variety of, I could add in my demo from before and build this up to be a folio. If you're wanting to share resources with colleagues and you don't want people editing or doctoring or doing anything to something that they're not supposed to, what you could do is you could, again, I'm just going to grab a doc. I'm going to grab this link at the top, but I don't want it to be edit. Lost my site. So when I add my link, so I'm just going to use the insert link button, paste that in, but I don't want edit, I only want view. Then they would only be able to see it. Or if I wanted them to force a copy, I could put copy in there, and then when someone clicks on this link, it will force them to make a copy of that document. And so they won't be able to, this is a good way of building a bank of resources. For example, if you want to put all your masters into a site like that with its make copy, you could have all your department masters in there, or all your letter masters or templates or anything like that. And then each time someone needs them, it would force them to make their own copy. When they make their own copy, it will rename the document as a copy, and it's stored in their drive. So this is now in my own drive because I opened that, logged in as this to make a copy in there. That can be, again, a really useful one for sharing documents with home, if you've got a template that you want them to fill out, or colleagues, or things like that. So in summary, well, I think that was, yes, that was all. One of the things that this will do, just in case anybody's noticed it, is this readability thing. It automatically sort of colorizes the banner. So if they're arguing with you because it keeps changing their colors, that'll be what it is. So that's, again, I'm not going to go through all the settings and sites because I'm sure lots of people have already used them. You can add and build your pages in there. I'm going to stop with 10 minutes left now, because I'm very aware, like I say, of all our competing times and challenges at the moment. If there's anybody that wants to check anything, add anything, or comment, then please do. Otherwise, thank you very, very much for your time, and good luck with everything.